Welcome everyone to this INNS webinar. Today we want to speak about education. It will be Irvin Kin. But before coming to that, I want to quickly introduce to INNS. It's the International Neural Network Society, and we are organizing some webinars, sometimes on purely technical machine learning topics, but sometimes like today, something very impactful where, of course, there is some machine learning in the back, but it has a huge effect on some very important areas. Here, it's about education, mainly about the use of AI in education. Let me just, sorry. And we know AI can be used in education in many areas, for example, for Socratic learning, so that people can have a assisted learning, a personalized learning experience. And also, sometimes people have some difficulties and they want to have inclusive learning. But it's also be efficient because us as teachers, we can sometimes just manage how the learning experience should be. And AI helps supporting that. But if all that is happening during learning, how can we actually assess? And that's the main topic of the presentation today. The assessment goes in various directions. A good assessment is for us as educators to gauge the effectiveness of how we do the education, but it's also for the students to assure that they have really learned what they should have learned and how good they are in the progress and where they might have to focus in the future. And in this assessment area, there's a high potential of AI. And who would be better talking about this high potential of AI than an AI specialist by himself? Irvin King here, he has so much experience in AI. I would probably need an hour to speak about everything here, but he is a fellow of ACM IEEE, INNS, the Neural Network Society, and several other associations. He also received the Gabo Award for engineering applications in the past. He has several ACM Test of Time awards, so his machine learning contributions are really not only short-term but long-term viable. And he has, of course, experience in education so much that he is the director of the Center for Learning, Innovation, and Technology, in short, ELITE. Such an experienced guy will share today with us his insights in the AI usage for assessment and the future of education. And I asked him what characterizes you and what you are proud of. And instead of all of these things I'm mentioning, he says the most important thing for him is he is striving for innovation, excellence, and hopes through events like that presentation today, but also many other engagement he has to inspire the next generation of scientists, researchers, and educators. So I'm very curious to hear more from you, Irvin, what you want to share with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I guess. Thank you. Let me begin to share then. Okay, good. Share this out. Okay.
And we can see.
You can see my messy desktop.
Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you, Marcus. And I really want to thank INNS, Marcus, and Zhenling, and Danilo, Kayla for the background work. The topic I'd like to share today is the critical role of AI in learning analytics and assessment and the future of education. And I'd like to first acknowledge that the International Neural Network Society for their sponsorship of this webinar series. Now, before I begin to talk about education, I just want to give you a little slice of what I do. Okay, just one slide of my advertisement, I guess. I do things in trustworthy AI under the trustworthy AI umbrella. I deal with privacy, security, robustness, fairness, explainability, so forth for algorithm for machine learning. Particularly, I deal with social computing, natural language processing, machine learning, and graph neural networks. The reason I'm in education is first, obviously, I'm an educator. Second is I was also the dean, associate dean, uh, uh, overseeing education for our engineering faculty for 6 years. So I should be pretty experienced in that. On top of that, I'd just like to share with you, this is a one article that I wrote with some colleagues back in 2021. And during that time, in fact, you may remember Hong Kong had a social movement. And during that movement, that was before COVID. So we had a social movement where, we have people marching on the street. And that was very disruptive to the education system at that time. And therefore, many things were, the school were actually, some classes were closed down. A student went onto the street. So we had to actually to deal education in a different, from a different perspective. We had video taped. We had online sessions, and we had to just work around with that. And then soon after that, we had the COVID. In fact, this was in 2021, May. But during year 2000, you know that we also had a COVID. So this is the thing, is that rethinking engineering education during time of crisis. And that was very important because overnight, we became all online superstars. From a person a teacher who don't want to do anything online, suddenly we're able to actually do Zoom and teach Zoom and so on and so forth overnight. I also wrote a book not too long ago, A Decade of MOOCs and Beyond, because we actually did 2 terms of a project to promote MOOC education in Hong Kong. And so this was a decade, 10 years, because MOOC started in the year about 2004. And then it started in a decade later, it's about 2014. That's I should say 2014 started, and now 2024. So this was done in about 2023. So it's about a decade full of a MOOC. And we wrote this book with some insights on the policy, pedagogy, and so on and so forth. And one project that we did in Hong Kong was we had created the AI material for secondary school students and teachers. And this was a great project collaboration with Hong Kong Jockey Club. And this was sent to tens of thousands of high school students. And now it becomes a regular curriculum under Hong Kong Education Bureau. So this is a very, very successful and an excellent project to teach young people about AI. So today, what I would like to talk about is some of these topics: traditional assessment, how AI and learning analytics could meet our assessment challenges. And I'll share some of the work and system and products that we have developed for education assessment. And lastly, I'll end with some takeaway. So let's begin with the traditional assessment and its challenges. Do you know what this is? I think many people know. I mean, this is not a real version, but this is our transcript, your transcript, okay? And what is really startling is when you look at this, right, it has not changed in the past probably 50 years. And what is even more startling about this transcript is that your whole 4 years of college life, what you have learned, what you have done, is summarized into a number 3.2 out of 4, and that's your GPA. And in fact, each course, it gives you a number that says 3 units, and then your grades, A, B, C, D. Is this fair? Would this number 3.2 out of 4 represents what you have done and who you are, and so on and so forth? Well, I don't think so. Personally, I think that this is a very archaic of, assessing people, that we had reduced down to a set of numbers. And there are some issues about this: accuracy and errors. For example, you know, one teacher could be very, very tough, and one teacher could be very lenient. So you're getting an A versus you're getting a B. Maybe they're different, but in actuality, getting a B in one class may be even better. There could be standardization issues. There are also the timeliness issue that that you get your this transcript or report days, weeks, months after the event, your final day of class. Access and privacy is also an issue, right? And transfer of credit, how can you actually transfer a similar course across? Right now is a very cumbersome issue, but can we actually do it much more effectively using possibly AI? Fraud and misinterpretation of what those numbers mean also to contribute to its challenges in using a tiny, this sheet of paper to represent who you are and what you have done in the 4 years of a college lab. So some missing quality to track, I just like to say: personal growth, critical thinking, collaboration, cultural competency, motivation, ethical judgment, and all those things. We are unable to actually describe this in a sheet of paper that is A4 or a little bit bigger than that, right? So what I want to say, maybe is there a way that I could get an intelligent e-portfolio instead of my transcript? Is there a way, for example, for AI to keep track of all these things? And I think that AI may be able to offer some insight as to how we could assess student as well as teacher better in the future of education. We are really in the fourth industrial revolution. The first was based on steam engines. The second industrial revolution was based on electrical energy. The third was based on computer internet. And I believe that we're at the cusp of the fourth industry revolution, where AI, artificial intelligence, plus information such as big data, IoT, cloud, and etc., will bring in the next wave of innovations and next era or age, a golden age for AI. Okay, so we're talking about AI in education. So how would this fourth industrial revolution transform education? But let's first begin. Let's be reminded, okay, who are the stakeholders? Teachers, students, parents, administrators, government officials, and technology developers. All these people contribute to the ecosystem of what we call the future of education. So let's be mindful of all of them. But today, we're only probably going to focus on the teacher and mostly on the students. If you were to ask somebody, what does a successful graduate in the 21st century should look like? I present to you what I think the triangle of success that a university could offer to its students, okay? And here you can see that there are three sides of this triangle. Knowledge is what university is currently providing. I'm a computer scientist, so I need math, I need, Boolean logic, I need data structure, I need algorithm. And if you're a chemist, then you will need actually, the element table, you will know how the chemical, compound work and so on and so forth. But I do believe that we also are missing two other things that often they are not taught or may perhaps can be learned indirectly, and that is the skill. The skill is the goal setting, time management, reasoning, communication, and interpersonal skill, the soft skills that will allow you to actually be a more complete person. And your attitude also will determine your altitude, your motivation, your confidence, integrity, honesty, optimism, enthusiasm, and so on and so forth. So with these three things in balance, then I believe that this is a successful and a successful product of the university. But oftentimes, my question is this: we could assess the knowledge part, but how do we assess the skill and the attitude part? You know, how how would our work actually can be demonstrated so that all these skills and attitude can be shown, okay, in order to be a successful learner. If university is a place where knowledge is transmitted, I'd like to just share with you my view of this knowledge transmission. And I basically break this down into three parts. First, obviously, if I want to transfer some knowledge as a teacher, as an educator, I got to have some things, content that I want to create and to discuss. And this is where you could talk about design, objectives, outcome-based approach, and multimedia content creation, and so on and so forth. This is where you build your content. The second pillar of this knowledge transmission, I think, is what we call a pedagogy delivery. And this pedagogy is what Marcus also talked about. You can have personalized learning, hybrid learning, flipped classroom learning. And the pedagogy is the way that you would deliver the content from the educator to the learner. And this is very important because you could use the same content, but the way that you deliver it could be different depending on the user, depending on the learner's capability, credential, experiences, and background. Okay, so pedagogy is also a very, very important methodology that we could study. But I would say that if you have the first two, it's fantastic. But oftentimes, the educator and the learner are missing what we call it the third part. And this part is the assessment methods. And here we talk about the formative, summative, and other peer assessment, criterion-based assessment, and so on and so forth. Because without assessment, you're almost like running a marathon without the finish line. And what that means is that if you don't have assessment, how do you know that you have achieved your goals? How would you know that you have hit your target? So assessment is important component in this cycle with three pillars of knowledge transmission. And I also think that all of them are equally important, and assessment should not really be looked down or be minimized its importance. Okay, so how did we start about education and assessment? Now, I know that we actually started a long time ago, but I would just bring this back in perhaps in 1998, where assessment classroom learning by Paul Black and Dalen William. And basically, assessment is just as a feedback loop. You teachers, educator will gather evidence through activities, questions, and discussions, and they can use this evidence to adjust their pedagogy, adjust their content, and so on and so forth. And then this will become specific and actionable feedback that help the educator and the learner on how to improve the interaction in the classroom. However, in 1989 or around 1990, I think one of the startling thing that happened was that summative meaning that you would do actually a final examination. So a large portion of the grade is based on the summative assessment, usually, right? Final report, final project, a class project, and so on and so forth. However, formative assessment and the design of instructional system became very, very popular in the 1990s. And why is that? Because formative assessment is not a one-time event, such as your final examination, but should be a continuous and iterative process all along the learner's learning path. Okay, and assessment as teacher-driven activity should be learner-centered. Okay, and before that, it is basically, teacher-centered. I teach you something, you listen. I one too many, and but in 1990, people began to actually um, see the appeal of a learner-centered, continuous, iterative, formative assessment. So why is this change? Well, simple. One thing is that the knowledge, the recall of facts, was too over comprehension. We ask our student to remember facts and remember how you do it, without emphasizing the basic understanding of that. So you will see the Bloom taxonomy a little bit later. We've always focused on the memorization part. You memorize the equation without really understanding the equation. You memorize, words without understanding how the words are being constructed, and so on and so forth. The second thing why it changed is that standardization versus individualization is that treating all students as if they can learn the same way and progress at the same pace is not correct. Individualization and personalization is important because everybody is different. So we begin to understand that individual learn and adapt at different rates, and therefore learning and teaching should be also do that accordingly. However, at that time, although we realized that this can be done, something is still missing, and I think that AI is offering us this new way that we could actually do personalized pedagogy and delivery and assessment much better in today's society. Third is a limited insight into students' understanding. And this is how students evaluate, apply, analyze information in the real world setting is not being really taught. Everything was taught in the classroom, and they did not actually understand what are the issues and the problem in the real world. And I think today it's slightly different. What you're actually doing in the classroom, in fact, your hands-on, your work must be relevant in the real world workplace, or else, your program will fail. Okay. So what are some of the weaknesses in standard assessment paradigm? Well, you and I know creating content is fun. Delivering content is like a performance, and it could be fun as well. The worst part is the behind the scene, doing the grading, doing the reading, doing the calculation, and understanding what the student have done. So assessment design is often time consuming, and often is only one of teacher's responsibilities. Assessment only view a snapshot often, and that at a time, and only a single point, and it does not see the student, in an overall continual space and time continuum, right? Third, one size fit all approach again may introduce unintended bias and into the assessment. Fourth, assessment can be inauthentic as they don't include the real world context of what they learn. Okay. And lastly, but not least, assessment can be antiquated and assessing skills becoming obsolete. So these are some of the traditional weaknesses in the standard assessment paradigm. And can AI help to do so? Well, here is the Bloom's taxonomy, and I give you, I give you a little peek about what AI can or cannot do, right? as I said before, the lowest level of learning, low order of learning is remembering. So I teach you an equation. You don't have to understand how it works. You don't have to understand how you can apply it. You don't need to even have to analyze this. We just remember the equation, right? And that's the lowest level. And then you move to the understanding, and the application and the analysis and the evaluating, and also last, you create new equations based on the equation that you know. Now let's take a look at it on the other side, how AI will be able to actually interact and in each of these levels. AI, in fact, is highly competent to remember things because AI could retrieve information. ChatGPT is fantastic when you actually put in questions, and then you could access its vast knowledge base and answer you immediately with the answer that he has. However, understanding part, recognizing, discussing, explaining meaning behind information may not be so competent. And AI is somewhat competent in application, using information in new contexts to predict, interpret, solve, for, or execute, or implement. And then analyzing, it turns out that ChatGPT and many other AI, software and tools are excellent in identifying trends, differentiating, and comparing, relating, and questioning, and so on and so forth. And then you can see that evaluating and creating, okay, AI could be somewhat competent. But this is a rough view of what AI can do at different level of Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. So, let's just share a little bit about the milestones of what AI can do and how AI can help in assessment. In fact, AI assessment in education is nothing new. Back in 1970s, they are also already have early automation and intelligent tutor that we have been trying. 1980s, assessment automation, 2000, adaptive learning and advanced analytics. I'm going to share some of these things with you. And then in recent 2020, there are more advanced AI integration, AI tools that could beat human in many forms of assessment, large number of institutions implementing machine learning into or AI into their operations, and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at the history. I'll just jump into ChatGPT in 1998. In fact, a auto tutor was developed by the University of Memphis, and it really addressed some of the issues in the AI systems. As you can see, it's a question and answer chatbot like, and it could deal with inherent complexity of natural language processing, constrained open-ended nature word knowledge, but a lack of research on lengthy threads of connected discourse. So this was definitely not Chat GPT. It could do very short, very focused type of question and answering, and that was able to actually help being assessment as a tutor to assess a student and help the student in learning. 2016, Georgia Tech launched the AI-powered teaching assistant called Joe Watson, based on IBM's Watson. And this was trained on 40,000 students' forum posts to answer also course-related questions, and also being able to help to assess the student's capability and be able to help the student also learn. So this was actually in 2016, again, before ChatGPT were even made popular. Now, I just want to share with you that this is something that we are also working on, is that we take the global, context of LLMs, ChatGPTs, for example, plus the local context, maybe using a thing called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. We can actually put those two together and be able to have a greater accuracy and usability for teachers and students. Okay, so now Joe Watson is integrated with ChatGPT, and in fact, Joe Watson surpasses OpenAI Assistant in accuracy and safety. Right, so you can see that OpenAI is the LLM, but Joe Watson has some local knowledge that is being added, and in fact, that is much more effective than just the ChatGPT alone. So it is important to have a global as well as the local context. So let's move into the second phase. How does AI and learning analytic meet assessment challenges? And I just want to let you know that first, the AI assessment will reduce time and effort. And as you can see in this article, right? Can AI be used in assess research quality and even assess student work and so on and so forth? Yes, it can. And in fact, you could see in this survey that a high percentage of the people think that the AI assessment is helpful. It reduces the time and the effort to for teachers for assessment. AI assessment can also be personalized so that Google for Education develops a machine learning algorithm to identify at-risk student and provide early intervention. And Google for Education was able to correctly predict 80% of the time at-risk students so that they are able to intervene and help the at-risk student so that they are able to actually graduate and by the second week of the semester. Okay, and this is what's so impressive. Oops.
Screen is there.
Perfect. Okay, good. So so AI in assessment is also scalable because AI doesn't get tired. AI could work 24 hours a day. So it's cost effective, operational efficiency. In terms of report generation, it could be quite objective, right? And so on and so forth. So this auto grading that I'm going to share with you a little bit later on could also help the teacher to do that. Okay. And adaptive learning, AI assessment can also help to identify the student's skill and background experiences so that this assessment will improve students' grade by analyzing the affective and the cognitive factor of the student. And so the student will not be able to give up so easily. Okay, so AI is adapting to the ability of the learner. And AI is able to also identify hidden issues using AI to understand why students are struggling. Okay, and they could actually intervene more than 80% of the time in the simulation and in students' work. So, and also AI is fair. Teachers could be very uneven when it comes to grading because we get tired, we get maybe antsy, we get nervous, we get all sorts of things. But a machine and AI will be fair in what they do, and it's also unbiased as well. Okay, so and it will be very objective. So the teacher's assessment, we hope that doesn't vary from teacher to teacher, but it will be a lot more objective in the assessment for student across different subject area. Okay, so this objectivity could help the teacher to identify trends, engagement, and so on and so forth. Okay. Last but not least, I'd just like to share about the potential for administrator, because earlier everything was about educators and students, right? For administrator, right? Wouldn't it be nice that this software, there is a piece of software that could actually automate the accreditation process? I don't know whether you have gone through accreditation process, but I have gone through it several times. And accreditation process is not fun because you have to prepare so much material. You have to monitor many of the, the key sensors of students, of teachers, alumni, and so on and so forth. If there is a piece of software that can actually monitor this automatically and actually collates all the information and present the evidence to the accreditation board, wouldn't that be wonderful? And in fact, here is the Artificial Board of America. It will be able to analyze your curriculum and your graduate attributes and be able to assess whether your curriculum and your outcome are actually being aligned correctly, okay, well, properly, and provide a very detailed report on our area of compliance and non-compliance, and also suggest area of movement, improvement, and so on and so forth. And this really has benefited administrator by reducing their burden, automate their manual filing, and reduce, again, human bias during the evaluation process. So the accreditation with AI assessment is becoming more and more popular. Now, we could ask ourselves, okay, if that's really cool, where do you get the data, right? To support your education, to support your learning outcome, to support your administrators say that my university is a great place to learn. Well, this is where we are going to look at learning analytic in a little more detail. Now, in learning analytic here that you do, right? We could actually look at the data by asking what, why, how, and who. What context, what data, what environment, what context, do you want to measure the LMS? And what do you have? If you don't even have a LMS, a learning management system, you don't even have that to measure. But what do you have? In order for us to take it to take this data. For example, ours is a Blackboard system, and others could be some other system. Then the administrator has to ask yourself, why are you actually measuring these objectives? What objective do you want to achieve? Do you want to achieve a low dropout rate, or you want to achieve the high, graduate student going into postgraduate school rate? What are the objectives for your administrator that you want to meet, your KPIs, for example? Who will ask who are the stakeholders, whether it's the learner, the parents, the mentors, the institution, and so on and so forth, right? And then lastly is how are you going to measure this, right? What methods, statistics, how do you collect surveys? Do you actually measure the test scores that you input into say Blackboard system immediately, or you use even the light power consumption of a classroom to measure how often a classroom is being used or is being used for teaching and so on and so forth. So learning analytics involves, when you set this up for assessment, it really involves a lot of behind the scene thoughts on what, why, how, and who. And I want to further expound on this is that, you could, if you think about collecting all the data here, and it will be really, we started with data connectors from the very low end where we could actually look at Blackboard systems or other type of systems, right? We get many different streams of data. We can make that data ordered. We can make the data standardized by aligning them, okay, from different classroom, from different faculties, and so on and so forth. Then we could talk about, what happened? How do I compare? How does one student compare to other students, and so on and so forth? And then what did it happen? Why did it happen? And how did, say, a class that has a very high failure rate, this is where the diagnostic analytic would come in. Why did this large a group of people failing this class? Is it because of the teacher? Is it because of the student? Is it because something else, right? And then the next level, as you go up into the pyramid, is where the predictive analytics. What will happen if we have a large dropout of the student? Obviously, the reputation of the university may be tarnished. The student will be actually affected, and there could be many things, right? And this is the what if scenario. And then the prescriptive and analytic, it will tell the administrator, what should I do? And when you have all these things happen, that you should actually, make sure there are enough tutors to make sure that the student are learning, the student in the class, and so on and so forth. And then if you can automate this whole process, in the data stream, from the experimentation all the way to the sector transforming, as from the university level, if you could do that, then I think that you would actually have a great learning analytics system that can help you in assessing not only the student, but the teacher, this administrator, and the university as a whole. Okay, so there's some learning analytics for institution. Civitas is one of the piece of software. Again, I don't get permission from them. I just want to share with you that this is it gives the academic institution a complete picture of their student in almost real time. And this is very important. This is where formative assessment come to life. Okay. And not only that, it could actually generate prediction for success. And again, you could show that 34% boost in graduation rate for one college when they use this piece of software. So I'm going to share with you in a few minutes about what we, my staff and I have developed of some of the education software. And I just want to share with you a comic before we do that. And it reads this: what are the potential pitfalls of using AI in learning and assessment? And this comic basically say, hey, we got a problem. I turn it on, but I can't turn it off again. And oftentimes, once you start with AI, it's hard to not use AI. And this is probably one of the pitfalls of using AI. So if you want to take anything, I highly recommend that you could take this particular page and take a snapshot of this page, because this is a page that has a lot of softwares that I've been advocating. Camingo, for example, is an excellent tool. Marcus talked about the Socrates method. The Socrates method really doesn't tell you the answer, but it guides you to the answer. So if you ask a question to Camingo right here, it's coming from Khan Academy, Camingo. Camingo will not tell you the answer, but it will guide you through the reasoning process so that you will arrive to the answer yourself. And that is what I think that AI, intelligent tutor should do, and be able to actually assess students' capability through a Socrates method. There are other things about lesson planning, assessment, learning analytics. I will not go into detail, but you should be able to actually get this. And the next slide is this. Having all those software is great. In fact, what we see, this is already a little bit old, it's 2023, but what we see is that a great adoption among K to 12 teachers. And I'm sure that the tertiary, secondary, and tertiary institutions like university also have a very high adoption rate. So if we're to ask the question, right, what do you fear about, AI in assessment? Okay. And what do you have concern for Gen AI? If you ask the student, most of the student will actually say it's about the academic integrity issue, because it's too easy for people to copy and paste these days. In fact, for ChatGPT, it's too easy for AI to generate homework writings and reports and so on and so forth. So there is really a concern about academic integrity. And with this, and teachers, if you ask them, what is important? What are the key area focus and concern for Gen AI and for education assessment? The teacher would actually say that balancing Gen AI and human assessment is one of their top concerns in that assessment. So the teacher actually want to know more tools, but they want to be able to use the tools at their disposal. So they're not being forced to use the tool, but they should be taught so that these tools can be used at their disposal at different situations to different set of students. And if you were to ask the institutional perspective, and you ask the administrator, what are the key areas of focus and concern for Gen AI, is that the administrator, in fact, are very afraid of the Gen AI and AI assessment will disrupt the traditional assessment methods. And this is something that I'm hoping that the software that we produce, education software we produce, will alleviate this fear and concern. Okay. How do we actually address these AI assessment challenges? Okay, I don't know what your university have done, but what we also have done in assessing AI or Gen AI is that you have to establish and enforce a very clear guideline for Gen AI usage. We have here we see a 5-level. First level is no AI usage. Second is AI assisted idea generation and structuring. The third is AI assisted editing, AI task completion, but is evaluated by human. And the fifth one is full AI. There's no, everything goes. You could absolutely use AI without any worries. Okay, so these are actually 4 or 5 different levels that your university should have established a guideline, a clear guideline. If you haven't, then you really should. Okay, I'd like to share with you one first software and product that we have. It's called VeriGuide. VeriGuide is a truth guide. It's an AI-powered plagiarism detection system, and that could detect human plagiarism and also AI-generated content. So by giving you a piece of text, we're able to actually identify where did you actually copy this from, or whether this piece of text is being generated by ChatGPT or some other, AI text generator. So for university, obviously, plagiarism detection, and for publishers, it could be used for editorial, checking, and the legal service could be intellectual property checking, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the first thing that we have. Second is how should we address these challenges is to use AI to enhance teaching and not to replace human interaction. And with this, we have a piece of software that is called ASAP, and this is called AI Served Assessment Platform. And this helped the teacher to analyze multimedia teaching material, also for better performance. So here you can see that giving a video presentation of a student, we could tell the student is going too fast, too slow, too loud, too soft. We could see whether their thoughts, their transcript is organized, whether it's coherent, whether the keywords are actually being used to present for a specific topic that is being asked to do. And so again, teachers can use this for improved lesson delivery. University could also use this for teacher performance analysis and so on and so forth. And here's just a quick video. CAPE is a one-stop platform for educators and learners to access educational resources, data, analytics, courseware, and tools. We have numerous innovative projects catering to the educational needs of users in Hong Kong and mainland China.
ASAP, among the others, is designed for higher education institutions and educators. ASAP, short for AI Served Assessment Platform, is a course assessment platform using AI to analyze multimedia content. What it does is to provide data-driven and objective insights for users to evaluate their course materials or presentations and form an assessment network among different institutions to exchange knowledge.
My name is Mark Lebain. I'm a senior lecturer at ELTU here at Chinese University of Hong Kong. It's not so much their word choice or the keywords. The keywords are also important, but it's looking at how fast they are speaking and at the level that their vocabulary is placed in a range. For the last 20, 25 years, students have always had to review their own presentations before receiving any of my feedback. In fact, they actually have to stand in front of class and provide their own feedback on their performances. For ASAP, I think it has value in two specific ways. Number one, as an instructor, you can review your own presentations to make sure that you are actually creating content that is understandable, clear, and concise that your students can follow in class. Alternatively, you can also use it as an aid to help you assess students' presentations. By recording a student's presentation and uploading it to the platform, you can get a lot more details and feedback, not just a transcript. You can find out more about how they are presenting, the word level they're using, the sentence structure, how fast they're speaking, even the emotions they're using in their speech. It provides students more information about the context of their presentation and how they can adjust it. So in the future, they will be able to present clear, more concise, and understandable presentations.
Keep is a one-stop platform for educators.
Sorry. Okay. And next things I'd like to share with you is how we can equip teachers with knowledge resource so we can prepare students for new assessment styles in the evolving job market. And this is what we have done is a system called Tell Us. This is an AI interview and assessment platform built for enhancing teaching and facilitate self-learning and supporting institutions. So here we can use Tell Us for real-time assessment so that, you know, instead of writing reports that can be copied, it can be AI generated. When you do real-time assessment, you cannot cheat. You have to understand that subject in order to verbally give a response. And also, we can use this for interview training, for career preparation, and for institutions, we can use it for admissions and screening. And for business, you can use this in HR for doing the interview sessions. And here's a short video.
Hi, I'm Professor Erwin King, KEEP's project leader. KEEP strives to develop a range of innovative products to accommodate the ever-changing needs of educators and students in the new AI era. One of our most exciting software platform is Tell Us. Tell Us is an AI video interview and assessment system that facilitates next-generation assessment methods for teachers. It is education-oriented with a mission to enhance students' interview skills as they prepare for college admissions and the job market. Tell Us coaches students on improving their interview skills, language proficiency, and presentation abilities by providing automated, scalable, and affordable interviews. The education industry in Hong Kong is providing insufficient interview support for students. The current automated interview systems were designed to cater corporate recruitments. The educator sector lacks a similar product to address educators' and students' needs.
What I wanted them to do was to have a platform where they could actually practice their presentation and receive some immediate feedback, especially about the vocabulary they were using, the rate of speech, and more important, the attentiveness, the awareness they were actually given to the audience rather than, let's say, their cue cards or their notes. I do like the timing between the questions to give students enough time to think about what they're going to say, prepare for the next question, rather than in a real-life interview, for example. Most students are so nervous that they start responding right away and they don't understand that they can actually take 5 or 2 seconds to think about what the interviewer has said and then respond to the question. I found this to be very useful because students could obtain immediate feedback on their performances rather than having to wait for after an assessment to get feedback from me. TELUS is a great platform that I think not only departments or faculties that are teaching interview skills, but also colleges that are running workshops can integrate into their modules or their programs to help students have an alternative way where they can practice their interviewing skills. Alternatively, it doesn't have to just focus on interviewing skills. Anytime they have to present in front of a camera, whether it is online via Zoom, in front of class, they can still practice their speaking skills and get instantaneous feedback, which will only help them improve their confidence and their ability to present in front of other people. Today's AI solutions for tomorrow's education.
Okay, so oops. And last but not least, we're talking about new this this piece of software is really the automated essay grader, and this is the latest that is based on ChatGPT that we're able to analyze grammar, we analyze the structure, organization, and we can also customize the rubric for assessment from a teacher. So you could see that I'll just go to the next slides and show you the video, and that will be
As the education scale continues to expand globally, the increasing assessment workload for educators lengthens the time for students to receive feedback, which will ultimately affect their learning outcomes. Automated grading by VeryGuide is born not only to solve the overwhelming assessment workload, but also the disunity and lack of personalization of writing tools. Essay Grader allows users to customize grading rubrics. An automated scoring and feedback will be generated based on the selected attributes, offering more in-depth reference to targeted evaluation and guidance for improvement. Basic statistics such as the summative metrics calculates these to assess if the essay meets basic requirements. Textual lexical diversity and flesh reading ease scores are also available to evaluate vocabulary richness and readability. Grammar Checker offers in-text correction of grammatical mistakes. Last but not least, the summarizer concludes the uploaded content, and there's an outline function that generates the structure and summarizes the main idea for each section. Automated grading by VeryGuide will be your new favorite tool with all these benefits. Join us in reimagining assessment. Today's AI solutions for tomorrow's education. As the
Oops. Okay, so this comes to really the last section. I will recap of the challenges of using AI in assessment for the future of education. We all know that assessment could be time consuming and it could be single point in time. And there are many bias, unfairness, and non-objective assessments. However, all these things that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you see can really be overcome. And I want to just share with you that AI has revolutionary potential for personalized learning experiences. AI assessment, it can also give you quality assessment, but it will take time. Use AI to enhance content creation, pedagogy, and assessment, and not to replace the human interaction is the key thing. Make sure that human is always in the loop, and it does matter. My final thought to you is this: AI assessment with learning analytics would be continuous, timely, personalized, adaptive, scalable, objective, fair, unbiased, multifaceted, private, secure, cost-effective, leading to successful learners, educators, and institutions. I'll leave you guys with a story, and I leave this poem by William Butler Yeats. He says in a poem, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. And I think this is very important of who I am today. I became a computer scientist, not through, my father, who was a very kind and gentle man, but through my high school teacher. And he taught me American and English literature. We're not talking about, the Canterbury Tale. We're not talking about the Beowulf or the poems that he read, or the American literature, John Steinbeck and all these Great Gatsby that I have read. But what he impressed me was his enthusiasm and excitement when he taught English and American literature to me. That inspired me to learn, to self-learn, and to lifelong learn of everything surrounding me. I became a computer scientist because I want to continue to learn new things, and this is who I am. Therefore, education is not the filling of a pail, but I was lit up by my high school American and English lit teacher. And with that, I conclude, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irvin, and very nicely said at the very end. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Virtual applause for you. I
Yeah.
will actually ask a very quick question because it is
Sure.
directly connecting to the last. Do you think an
Oh.
AI can lit that fire as well?
Yes, but it will be actually be directed and conducted by human, I think. AI use it as a tool, yes. And whether AI can actually do it by itself, that's yet to be seen, But I think that AI can do a lot of things in a very short amount of time. So I'm not going to say no, because I think that the future is very bright for AI. That's all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we'll be taking questions from anyone. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand and I will add you to the spotlight. You can also all share your video at any time. And also, if you don't want to share your video because the thing is getting recorded, feel free to write it in the chat and I will say it. But I see we have a first question here already. So
No.
please go ahead, Professor.
So, first of all, thank you very much for this interesting and very informative talk. And I also thank you, Marcos, for arranging this talk for us. So my question is like you mentioned, we could get fairness and unbiased solution. But these are
Yeah.
two attributes are very concerned from ethical point of view for AI solutions. If we look at AI Act, it also make it emphasis on AI has some sort of biasness and also unfairness. So how could we basically introduce unbiased unfairness in solutions?
Yeah. So as I shared with you earlier, I work under the umbrella of trustworthy AI. So being fair and unbiased is one of the things that we strive for. And then fairness, we could talk about that level of data fairness. We could talk about the model fairness. We could also talk about inference fairness. The data fairness is where, we got to make sure, we're not only collecting male data, for example, but we want to be able to collect male and female data so that the data is actually balanced. And for model data, as engineers, we implement models and so on and so forth. We have to be very, very mindful of how we implement those to make sure that they are fair and objective. And lastly, when you do the inferencing, right, we also need to actually check whether the inferencing steps are also being done fairly and objectively. What I think about a machine is that machine can be trained to be objective and fair, and but it is human who actually need to guide in that process, and that's why I think it can be done. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. No, thank you for asking the good question. Excellent.
Danilo, you might have a question. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Erwin, for a really deep and insightful talk. And clearly, you've been thinking about that much deeper and much more than most of us. Just a little question about the capability of LLMs. So these days, the LLMs are very, very powerful, but also very, very general. And that generality may become a problem, I think. And there's a need, I think, to fine-tune LLMs to our needs. And given that education is such a huge subject, do you think it's feasible or possible to fine-tune LLMs for particular topics, subjects, degrees, and such like, and whether that would make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Danilo, you asked a very good question this afternoon. In fact, we had a paper on medicine or medical LLM. So the LLM was trained specifically for medical, with medical terms, terminology, the ethics of the medicine, and so reasoning. In fact, they build in the reasoning of a doctor in order to solve disease and so on and so forth. So yes, I think that specific LLM will be probably the direction of the future. In fact, distillation, or what we call, Apple has come out with a Realm, which is a very small version of the LLM that is being distilled, that's being actually, how should I say, contracted to a more specific domain of knowledge. So I think that is coming, and that will become personalized too. So you don't have to carry. You could actually have it on your phone, the Realm system. So yes, that is coming, Danilo, and hopefully that will becoming very, very soon, so that we can actually take advantage of that. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Danilo.
Very nice. Do I take it, Amanda, that you also have a question?
Hi,
Yeah,
Amanda.
that's right. Hi, Arvin. Thank you
Hi.
so much for your presentation. I found it really fascinating.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for going into all the different tools that you've been working on with your team. It's been very insightful to get that detail on future prospects and sort of near future prospects that we can be thinking about when working with universities and educators. As you know, my background's in sort of like law and policy and ethics. So I was interested a little bit more to hear about some of like the data protection and privacy measures that you might be taking when handling sensitive information. As you mentioned, for instance, some features around emotion recognition in texts and student progress and accreditation, especially in view. I know that this is currently more around Hong Kong and Singapore universities, but for instance, through the prism of the AI Act, these sort of tools would be falling under the high risk AI systems category. So a little bit about data protection and privacy measures, and perhaps also the question of possibility of hallucinations and generative AI models and how you counteract that in these models. Thanks.
Okay, great question, Amanda. Yes, how we draw the line, it depends on different institutions, different cases, situation, and so on and so forth. But you're absolutely right that we must be very careful about privacy, security, and GDPR and all that stuff, because it is data that we're collecting from students, right? It is the data that we actually need to know. We know we could help the student. At the same time, we could also hurt the student if that data has been leaked out. So security is really one of the a very important issue. Okay, so I don't want to belittle the point. But all I want to say is that yes, I think all the accreditation system and all that. First of all, you need to opt in. So that if you want to collect data, you need to really opt in. Now, some university already have stated that if you are our student, we are able to collect some of the data and share some of the data. Every university is slightly different, but we need to be very careful about doing that. But given that you have this data, then you're able to actually use it for the betterment and for for assessment for teachers, learner, as well as administrators. Okay. In terms of hallucination, you brought up a very good point. One of my concern is model collapse. And what that means is that, it may seem that if we continue to use regenerated, recursive generated data, that the model is actually getting worse. It doesn't get better, it gets worse. And so hallucination will be compounded. It might get even worse. However, I know that there are other things that we're doing, right? So we're doing, fine tuning. We're doing guardrailing. Some of it we're doing definitely more checking, and then we're ensuring quality data is being actually fed in, and so on and so forth. And earlier, as I say too, distillation of knowledge. So we don't get a big LLM, but smaller LLM that specialize in particular domain of knowledge. And that may be the way to go instead of trying to get a big, huge LLM. I think the DeepSeek model is 637 billion parameters. That's huge. Okay, it could do a lot of good things, but it also is huge. And we cannot run it on our little machines. So yes, so all the things, security, privacy, hallucination, all the interesting, I would say, outcome of what we have, exciting outcome of what we have that we have to deal with in the very near future for education, for assessment. So thank you, Amanda, for asking that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I have a bit of a direct follow-up because I
Yeah.
see it was really nice and very much mature and so on. And we are working here in the EU on a project called AI for EDU, but we solve some of these things also by making sure that things are like on local servers or on the service in the country and so on. But do you have your system actually in place in, let's say, European universities, or is it more?
No. Oh, you mean our system? Yeah, is in Hong Kong right now. But if they want to, we can actually deploy a version that is being isolated in a single place. But obviously, we still have to remote access and fix things. But yes, we are able to actually do that so that the data will not be leaked out into. Yes, we could do that.
Yeah.
We could do that.
But
Definitely.
I had a different question. And please, if others have questions, but you were relating to the Bloom's taxonomy, and I was in a way, and personally, I have some reasons also to agree to what you say, but in understanding you gave the AI capabilities a very bad score. I think there might be some friction and some people would disagree. And personally, I remember Geoffrey Hinton when he had his Nobel lecture that he spoke like, in this talk, I will make you understand that LLMs understand natural language in the same way or even better than human understand it. Right. So he was rating the capability of understanding extremely high, which I think is also exaggerated. But you gave it the worst.
Yes.
So.
Oh no, I'm just saying that I'm just saying that AI may not really truly understand what you are really saying. It's just repeating a probability of what it thinks that what you want to say, and that's all, right? Okay. So, I see Julia is there. Hi, Julia.
Let's say that's the last question now. Then we will do the official wrap up.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. I just it's a very wonderful talk. Yeah, I just want to share some of the experience about how you use it to generate your content. For example, in our education, usually we have a systematic way of the content. And then you know that I try to use the GPT. Usually the content generally are very, they're very rough, and it cannot be, just used in precisely used. So can you give us one of example how you use it for generating the content in your lecture, or how do you use it to help you?
Yeah, I don't generate the whole content, but I generate scaffolding or brainstorming ideas. So I will ask, hey, generate 10 things that I could talk about. And then, I say, yeah, this three. So use AI, you should use AI with you, not for you. Okay, so this is a very important thing. You are still in control. You don't totally rely on AI stuff, but you ask it to help you to do scaffolding, or to generate the outline, the structure of things, and then you could go in and fill in. And I do use, AI or proofreading. So I would write, and then you could actually proofread or rewrite, and that's okay, because even your spelling checker, I mean, it's checking your spelling, right? So this way, I'm okay, but definitely you have to be evaluating your own work afterward, because you are responsible for submitting that thing, not AI.
Yes.
So you are the person who is responsible for that content. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very wonderful talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you. Yep.
I fully agree. It was a really nice talk. Thank you, Irwin King. Do you have a last thing you want to share before I do the wrap up? A final message for everyone?
No, I just want to again thank you, Marcus and Danilo and other people, and Zenling, for inviting me to give this talk. Education, although I'm not an educator, but I'm passionate about sharing, disseminating knowledge to people. And as I say before, I hope to inspire our next generation of researchers, learners, educators, and so on and so forth, and through the work that we have done. That's all. Thank you so much, Marcus.
And I'm pretty sure that video will go also viral once it's online. Thank you so much also once more. Thank you. And I will stop or wrap up this by also mentioning that we are here. Sorry, something is really weird. Why is that thing now mirrored? No, I think everything is fine. Sorry. So just to mention, we will have future webinars. They are already planned, and you can always see on the website of INNS the upcoming webinars. The next webinar will actually be by Tiani Su. I have a small. He will speak now very much more technical about dataset distillation and pruning, streamlining machine learning performance. And that one will be on the 25th of April, same time at 13 UTC. In Europe, it's around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but at other places in the earth, of course, at different times. Then we have another one already confirmed, and that will be the Gabo lecture this time, given by Pierre Baldi. And he will speak about the AI-driven hospital of the future and beyond. So that will be less or somewhat technical, but also really much speaking about the impacts on humans and our society in general. There is also another webinar planned. The time is not 100% certain, but we will speak also at some point about the AI Act. Amanda was here mentioning some things, so soon we will announce that as well. That will be then a bit after that presentation, also in May. If you want to be kept up to date about our webinars and so on, have a look at the INNS website. Join also the International Neural Network Society. And in a moment, as I promised at the beginning, we still stay online for a bit and have a chit chat, and you can discuss with on. You can take your tea, coffee, or whatsoever with you. Unfortunately, we will not have a real nice social gathering as in a physical conference, but as most of you know, there is actually a conference planned and already being soon starting. It's just 2 months ahead. There will be the IJCNN in Rome, in Italy. And I will be going. I know quite a few of the people who we're now actively speaking are going there as well. So there you can have a real coffee and some sweets with us as well. So we are looking forward to meet you there. So do not only join INNS, but also register for IJCNN 2025. Thank you so much for today.